Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, and a very, very warm welcome to you from Penn Vicarage. Hope you've had a lovely weekend. Lovely to see you this morning. We had a fantastic weekend at church. Good to see you today, and thank you for joining us for our Bible reflection for today. Now, we're looking through the book of Proverbs, and there are 31 chapters, and we're in chapter 30 today. So today and tomorrow, we'll look at the last two chapters. Then we're going to go on to an amazing book called the book of Hosea. It's an Old Testament prophet. It's absolutely brilliant, and you'll love it. So that'll be later on this week. But for today, we are in Proverbs chapter 30. So glasses on, and without further ado, chapter 30, Proverbs. The words of Agur, son of Jekeh, an oracle. Thus says the man, I am weary, O God. I am weary, O God. How can I prevail? Surely I am too stupid to be human. I do not have human understanding. I've not learned wisdom, nor have I knowledge of the holy ones. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the wind in the hollow of the hand? Who has wrapped up in the waters in the garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is the person's name? What is the name of the person's child? Surely you know. Every word of God proves true. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, or else he will rebuke you, and you will be found a liar. Two things I ask of you. Do not deny them to me before I die. Remove far from me falsehood and lying, and give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that I need, or I shall be full and deny you, and say, Who is the Lord? Or I shall be poor and steal, and profane the name of the Lord, my God. Do not slander a servant to a master, or the servant will curse you, and you'll be held guilty. There are those who curse their fathers, do not bless their mothers. There are those who are pure in their own eyes, yet are not cleansed of their filthiness. There are those, how lofty their eyes, who lift their eyelids, There are those, how lofty are their eyes, how high their eyelids lift. There are those whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mortals. The leech has two daughters. Give, give, they cry. Three things are never satisfied. Four never say enough. Sheol, the barren womb. The earth ever thirsty for water, and the fire that never says enough. An eye that mocks a father and scorns to obey a mother will be pecked out by ravens of the valley and eaten by the vultures. Three things are too wonderful for me. Four I do not understand. The way of the eagle in the sky, the way of the snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a girl. This is the way of an adulteress. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I've done no wrong. Under three things the earth trembles. Under four it cannot bear up. A slave when he becomes king, and a fool when glutted with food, and an unloved woman when she gets her husband, and a maid when she succeeds her mistress. Four things on earth are small, yet they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people without strength, yet they provide their food in the summer. The badgers are a people without power, yet they make their homes in the rocks. The locusts have no king, yet all of them march in rank. The lizard can be grasped in the hand, yet is found in kings' palaces. Three things are stately in their stride. Four are stately in their gait. The lion which is mightiest among the wild animals, and does not turn back before any. The strutting rooster, the he-goat, and a king striding before his people. If you've been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you've been devising evil, put your hand on your mouth. For as pressing milk produces curds, and pressing the nose produces blood, so pressing anger produces strife. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, it's a tricky chapter to read. I'm not sure I read it very well, but I'll give it my best shot. This chapter is in various kind of sections. Obviously, the verse 1 tells you who's written these. These are not Solomon's words. These are the words of Agur, son of Jekeh, whoever he may be. Now, the first 6 verses are all about humility. So he goes on. He starts in the beginning about saying, I am tired, I am weary, I'm stupid, I do not have understanding, I'm not particularly wise. I don't have the knowledge, and so on and so on. So he's quite aware of kind of where he's at, and yet he goes on in verses 5 and 6 to contrast that with God. Every word of God proves true. He's a shield to those who have refuge in him. Do not add to his words, and so on and so on. So in the first 4 verses, this guy is aware of his own shortcomings. He's aware of his weakness. He's aware of his tiredness. He's aware of his lack of knowledge and wisdom. And yet he contrasts that in verse 5 and 6 with the wisdom of God, that he's not got it himself, but God's well and truly got it. So in the first 6 verses, you can see here the contrast he says between himself and just how incredibly powerful God is. Then in verses 7 to 9, you could sum this up by saying, lead us not into temptation. And firstly he says, so before I die, he says, take from me falsehood and lying. To take from him, he's saying, the temptation to tell lies, take away from him the temptation to behave dishonestly. So that's the first thing. And the other thing he says, do not give me poverty or riches, because he is aware that both of them carry with them a temptation. So if you're rich, the temptation is to say, I don't need God anymore. That's a temptation to spiritual pride. There's also a temptation that comes with poor, because when people are over poor, they may feel tempted to steal or behave badly or behave desperately or whatever. So what this guy is saying is that do not tempt me with falsehood. Do not tempt me with riches, because there's a temptation with that. Don't give me poverty either, because there's a temptation with that. So you could sum up verses 7 to 9. He's saying to God here, lead us not into temptation. Okay. Then in verses 10 to 14, continuing the theme really of not being proud, he talks about the other temptation, which I suppose the arrogance of not being prepared to listen to older and wiser people. So he says, there are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers. There are pure in their own eyes, yet not cleansed of their filthiness, and so on. How lofty their eyes, how high their eyelids lift. So he's talking here about the danger of pride, the danger of somebody who thinks that they can't listen to people, who knows it all and has learned it all and thinks they know everything and therefore has nothing to learn from those who are wiser than themselves. So in verses 10 to 14, that's really kind of what he's talking about there. Then in verses 15 and 16, he's really talking there about the sin of covetousness as well. That you're talking about somebody who's got 2 daughters who are constantly saying, gimme, gimme, gimme all the time. So the temptation there of covetousness too. Then he goes on. Then he goes on a bit later to talk about and he uses here a kind of poetry where the technique he uses. He sort of says, under 3 things. He goes on 3 things. Then the 4th one is, if you like, the sting in the tail. So, for example, verses 21 to 22, he talks about 3 things under which the earth trembles. Okay, a slave when he becomes king, a fool when they get glutton with food, an unloved woman when she gets a husband, and the 4th one's always the sting in the tail, the maid when she succeeds her mistress. Now, it's quite complicated what she's trying to talk about here. But I think she's talking about a maid that's kind of old and crusty and difficult and a really difficult customer here. So likewise in verses 18 and 19, going back if I may, he says, 3 things are too wonderful for me. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on the rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a girl. I think it's absolutely fascinating here. People who can behave sensibly, temptations can lead people who the thing about the way of a man with a girl, that people can be tempted to behave in a way they never do normally. That normally in their lives they can be very sensible, they can be, but actually put them in the hands of the temptations of the flesh, you might say, and they end up doing things that they really shouldn't have done. So so 3 things too wonderful for me. The 4th I don't understand: the eagle, the snake, the ship, and the way of a man with a girl. That's what he's saying here. Then verses 24 to 28, 4 things on the earth are very small, and yet they're exceedingly wise. Ants, badgers, locusts, but the lizard that can be grasped in the hand that is found in king's palaces is the truly amazing thing, that this lizard can be found there. 3 things are stately in their stride, the lion doesn't turn back, the rooster, what's the other one? There's another one, the he-goat, and a king standing before his people. So read these again, and you'll kind of see that the way he uses it, he talks about, three things are, but the fourth one is the one that the guy really, really wants you to see. And then finally at the end, he talks about again the importance of being humble. So if you've been foolish, exalting yourself, put your hand on your mouth. So he talks about, if you've been foolish, that's okay, but the way to turn around is just to kind of remember who you are and remember who God is in comparison. So lots and lots in this chapter. In verses 1 to 6, he contrasts his own wisdom and his own weakness with the power and the wisdom of God. Verses 7 to 9, he talks about lead us not into temptation. Verses 11 to 14 about the importance of being prepared actually to listen to the wisdom of years. Verses 15 to 17, the danger of covetousness. And then he goes on to use this poetic method at the end. Three things are too wonderful for me. The fourth I don't understand. So read again. And he talks about, I do not understand the eagle in the sky, the way of the snake on the rock, the way of a ship in the seas, and the way of a man with a girl. That's the one that can be so surprising. So read these through at your leisure and enjoy them, and you'll see what's going on there. Friends, I'm not sure I've put that very well, but it's an intriguing chapter in lots of ways, and I hope you find it helpful. Last chapter tomorrow. Have a lovely day today. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Have a lovely Monday, and God bless you. And